As I mentioned, today we celebrate the feast of the Lateran Basilica. Most people think that St. Peter's Basilica is the home church of the Pope, but it's not. It's the Lateran Basilica. And it's amazing to think that the building is what's been destroyed and reconstructed several times, but basically the building is 16 or 1700 years old. We think something in the United States that's 200 years old is ancient. But there's two lessons from the readings. One is a reverence and an awe. They're gifts of the Spirit. We talk about at confirmation that when we enter the Lord's house, to be in awe that we're in His presence. I think one of the reasons a lot of people are enamored of the Latin Mass is that it calls us back to that mystery and that reverence. Whenever I was in Catholic grade school, they taught us you never enter a pew without genuflecting before you come in. I very seldom see people do that anymore. Or that you bow the head at the name every time you say the name Jesus. There's so many little things that are just tiny little acts of reverence that help us to see one another and call one another to mind that Christ's name is so powerful. And here in His house, no more sacred place could you be. Second lesson in these readings is that we are the temple of the Holy Spirit. We're the temple of Christ, because every time we receive the Eucharist, He becomes a part of us, much in the same way that Mary carried Him in her belly. We carry Christ in our bellies as we receive the Eucharist. It's something to make us think about as we go through our daily lives. When someone cuts us off in traffic, when someone's impatient with us, when we're impatient with another person, do we really, really give the awe and reverence to that tabernacle, that basilica that we are ourselves? It's an old joke. There was an old man sitting at the traffic light. He was fiddling with this radio and a light turned green, and a guy behind him was really impatient, started beeping his horn and screaming, and he looked up and he panicked and he stalled the car, and then he tried to start it again and it wouldn't start, and finally the light turned red again, and the man behind him was livid. He starts screaming and swearing, and a few minutes later he hears a siren behind him, and the police light turns green, and the cop in front of him, or the car in front of him with the old man, pulls out, and the police officer knocks on the window. License and registration, please. What? I didn't do anything. I'm sitting at a red light. License and registration. He goes back, and it seems like an eternity while he checks out his credentials, and he comes back and he said, I have to apologize. I saw you screaming and swearing, and some of the things that were coming out of your mouth were amazing. And then I looked at your bumper and I saw that Jesus saves and God is my co-pilot and a little Christian fish on the back, and I was sure that your car was stolen. If there were a trial to convict you of being a Christian, what we have to ask is every day, would there be enough evidence to convict us that we do live our lives as Christians? Let us rise.